Good evening. It's great to listen to all these interesting perspectives, and especially the young ones. They're really inspiring. So I just try to share my perspective over the topic that has been shared. So good evening, and immediately when I say good evening, I start thinking whether to question whether it's good or bad. It's not very important to decide it whether it's good or bad, but eventually we do. And because we do that so much and so often, because we get in touch with new things every now and then, that it becomes a habit that we immediately start deciding this is good, this is bad, this is good, this is bad. So maybe something like that is also happening with digital. We are all trying to see that it's we are like without really discussing have sort of started making our theories that why it is good and why it's bad. But and that brings me to the topic of today, that the title that I have given is bird's eye view, because I feel for something which is like digital, which is enormous, it's not Charlie bit my finger. It's not that small that you will just like it. It's much broader than that. It sort of laminates the entire society where we are, and it sort of touches everything, every point, every perspective of our life. So it's very important to see it deeper, which is why we need to develop a bird's eye view towards it, a third point perspective. I didn't use the word third point, I used the word bird's eye view because third eye perspective kind of becomes a little spiritual. So for us to understand, and I would not say to decide, it's a continuous process of judging the thing itself, digital symphony itself, and how it is related to you yourself. Because every person has a different kind of requirement, different need, and a different set of uh, skills that they can use or not use a digital medium or use it to that stage. So I think for that it's very important to think through properly, and for that I think we need to do it stepwise: perceive it, understand it, use it. Now when I talking about perceiving it or having a perception towards it for something which is like digital symphony, I feel that the subject matter or the context needs to be big as digital itself. And maybe in this case, we have a problem which is bigger than that, which is the climatic conditions. Uh, it's heartening to see that there were huge changes that has happened in Earth's atmosphere, Earth's crust around us in the last 50 years. In the last 50 years, the poles, which is full of ice and it stretches to few hundred miles, have started melting 50%, 80% more than what it used to be 50 years back. And that changes a lot. We are not aware of it, we can't see it. But today, due to digital medium, digital sonography, digital researches, we at least get informed about it, right? And due to that, we can start thinking towards taking step towards it. The other factor is the population of whale. Whale itself is a large mammal, biggest mammal ever. So there obviously some sort of respect like that. But at the same time, whales also build the ecosystem around the oceans and the seas. And they are really, really important for the whole life cycle there. Now, due to the digital researches, the Fishing Cycle Act regulation that has worked really well for it, and countries who are kind of sharing boundaries, the sea boundaries, they have started making calendars for doing their fishing and doing their hunting, and they have restricted that. So it's great. The ozone layer was something, a huge problem 10 years, 20 years back, like really huge problem. It's like those Y2K problem, if you have heard, when 20 millennium was changing. But due to correct steps being taken, and that has pushed the issue of ozone layer to a distance that we are no more worried about it. The last thing that I want to cover in this part, within this section, is the deforestation, which has happened hugely in the last 50 years, because the requirement of paper to wood to furniture to everything, it needs wood. And then, of course, with the number of people that we keep increasing on, the population that we keep increasing on, we need space. We need space for farming. So we need to cut down maybe forest. Now, correct steps have been taken for that, and due to which a lot of countries have taken steps. Like, for example, Brazil, they have turned 50% of their farming land into, and that was a palm oil farming, and they have changed that into a forest back, which is great. So, within this context of climate change, we know that how much digital is important and how it's helping in informing, in getting you the right kind of knowledge, and also putting your voice through across to the correct people to be able to take the correct decision. All of it is happening through digital medium, right? Now, once you have perceived it, once you have understood it, not understood it, but perceived it and seen it like that, you need to understand it. Now, for understanding, again, I don't want to be unbiased to any object or any theory or any phenomena. So it's best to take a context of something that you are closest to. Now, for me, art is something that is, closest to me, and I would like to take that as a context. Now, for me, there is a confusion here. I own a design studio, which is 15 years old, and I own a design art initiative, which is 5 years old. I'm showing them like this because they are my babies, and they are into this fight, whether digital is good or analog is good. Now, while I'm talking about that, I know that, how much AI or how much automation we use in creating any sort of design that you are anyways designing or digitally drawing. You are not getting it made. So the base question comes to, do you like to draw? So a lot of people like to draw. They don't know. A lot of people, they draw it, but a lot of people who are not into drawing, when they draw, they understand that how relaxing it is. And for people who are into drawing, and if they thought of drawing something like a tree, as simple as a tree, if it's drawn beautifully, I think the happiness that it generates is something else. It's great, right? Because it's coming out of your experiences, of your interactions, of everything that you have perceived through your eyes, your senses, and your sensory organs, and you have produced this. So this is your creation. You claim it. You can sell it also, I do. Now, take an example of the same thing, that you want to draw a tree. I told Mid-Journey, I guess, draw a tree for me. So Mid-Journey can draw that tree within 3 seconds. Now that tree is beautiful. I don't know what tree is that, because there are so many trees that I have not seen, and Mid-Journey can make a tree that doesn't exist, right? Does that make me happy? Yeah, a result in 3 seconds makes me happy, but it gives me that happiness that that drawing gives me? No, it does not. So that's a judgment for me. I am judging it for myself. I feel everybody should judge for themselves, because everybody is blessed with different kinds of skill sets. Everybody needs to do different things, and where digital is helping them, enhancing them, making the product better, and not making them duller, or not or making them worse, that judgment, that ability to see, that third point perspective, that bird's eye view needs to be generated. Once we understand it, now it's time to use it. And it's very important to use it. Without using it, if you are judging it, it's not fair, I feel. But using it is important, but don't get used to it is also very important. I feel we get, it's very easy to get used to it, right? So that is where maybe thinking has to come. We are surrounded by smartphones, smart devices, smart homes, smart security, Alexa, Siri's, Google Home, and whatnot. So it becomes a little difficult for me to imagine that my 3.5-year-old daughter will not be bombarded with these options, and she will not ever have an option to just pick up a drawing copy and draw herself. But I'm wrong there, because I see that current generation is much smarter. We saw it coming. We don't know how to react to it. They have seen it being there with us. It's always there for them. And how they know how to treat us, they also know how to treat this digital symphony, or the digital space, or digital appliances, or softwares, or AIs. So I think you could be a creator, you could be an influencer, you could be a buyer, you can be a brand, you can be a seller, you can be anything, but your usage of this digital technology or digital devices depends totally on you personally. So you need to have a bird's eye view while you are getting into it, and you need to do it for yourself. Thank you.